Steven Portillo with SSurge Media Here. We're going to cover all the Premier League games that happened this weekend. Liverpool ends Bournemouth's 11-game unbeaten run and go 9 points clear at the top of the Premier League table with a solid 2-0 away victory. Mohamed Salah with a brace that keeps Liverpool title hopes alive. Here we are with Liverpool's 2-0 win against Bournemouth. Liverpool, just to be straightforward, they get things done. Liverpool, they weren't the best team. How do I explain this? They didn't play as the best that they could have. Liverpool did struggle, but they still got the outcome that they needed, which is more important towards the end of the season. It doesn't really... Sure, of course it matters how you perform, but you don't need to be playing out of your mind, because Liverpool put themselves in a position where they don't need to play amazing football till the end of the season. Sure, you still need to play good, but a key part of that is Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah, for me, is the greatest player in the world right now. You can see from his stats. Mohamed Salah, he's, for me, the Ballon d'Or winner. They should just give him the Ballon d'Or right now. Lamine Yalmal, sure. Raphiana, sure. Sure, Barcelona's front three has been really good this season, but Mohamed Salah has been out of this world under Arne Slot. And this performance today showed the reason. Mohamed Salah is such a key player for this Liverpool team. If he's out of the team, Liverpool would not be Liverpool without him. Mohamed Salah is Liverpool and changes up how the outcome of the game puts out. Like as of today, Liverpool didn't play amazingly. Amazing how, people expect them to play like. And of course, this past month or so, Liverpool hasn't been playing to their standards. They're winning games. That's what matters. But they haven't been, dominating the opposition like they've done since the beginning, like how they've done in the beginning of the season. So that's a key thing that's really important for Liverpool is Mohamed Salah, because you can see here he's reaching the Premier League top scorer, or the Premier League all-time top scorer. Passing Frank Lampard towards that. Even the season alone, Mohamed Salah, this was before the Bournemouth game as well, so you can add 2 more goal contributions to this. 36 in total. Alexander Isak right below him with Erling Haaland, Cole Palmer, and Chris Wood. But another key player for the Liverpool is Gravenberch. Gravenberch runs that midfield for Liverpool. Gravenberch is such an amazing player. Arne Slot really has formed him into that player that they really needed. They went for Zubamendi earlier in the season. Under Jurgen Klopp, Gravenberch wasn't really that midfielder for Liverpool. That he used Endo instead. But Gravenberch this season has been such a key player for Liverpool. I don't think anyone else could put in a performance for Liverpool as Gravenberch. Another key thing with Liverpool is they don't have a proper number 9. Sure, Darwin Nunez, he's a number 9, but he has not been that main player for Liverpool. He has not been that number 9 for Liverpool. Darwin Nunez, for me, I was a huge fan of him when he signed from Benfica 3 years ago, and he just hasn't lived to his standards. He hasn't lived to his potential that he could have for Liverpool. Darwin Nunez played such a pivotal role for Benfica. Every top club in the world wanted him. Liverpool signed him, big, huge fan of him. Didn't live to his potential. He's more of a player that you just sub in during the second half. And sure, he can get that clutch in, but most of the times when he has the ball, he doesn't look comfortable with it. And I really hope that he goes out on loan somewhere and tries to get that form back. But as of right now, you're playing Luis Diaz or Diogo Jota up in top in the number 9 spot. But I'd rather see, Diaz on the wing, on the left, but Cody Gakpo has also been playing really well lately. So it's just really hard for Liverpool what to do. Similar to like Real Madrid, Vini and Mbappe wanted to play in the left wing, same with Rodrygo. But the difference with Liverpool is that they have more balance. Liverpool's team is really more balanced, which I love watching Liverpool play way more than Real Madrid lately. Just huge fan of the whole system Liverpool has. Same with McAllister. For me, McAllister has been such an underrated player for Liverpool. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves. McAllister, when he joined from Brighton, I was a huge fan of McAllister. He's a World Cup winner. He knows how to win, And for Liverpool this season, he's really been that key player. Every time I watch him play, he has always been that key player for Liverpool in the midfield. So even Gravenberch, so that duo really connect. Sure, there's Dominic Szoboszlai, who hasn't really been performing as well as he did this season. For this season, he played really pretty good at the beginning of last season, but then he dropped in form for the second half of the season with McAllister also performing well. But that's just, you know, I really want Dominic to be that number 10 for Liverpool, but he's underperforming. Sure, you can play Diogo Jota in the center, or if you want to sign someone else in the center, Harvey Elliott, or even Curtis Jones has been starting. So who knows? We'll see what would happen with Dominic Szoboszlai. And for Bournemouth, they are such an amazing team. They're really good players. Not just this game, all season. You know, Bournemouth has been a team this season. Here, pull up the table. People, they were unexpected. No one thought that they would be playing the way that they have been. They have a bunch of players that I like. You know, there's David Brooks, Justin Kluivert, the center back from Juve, and the Brazilian. I can't really pronounce his name they signed from Porto. They signed really good players. It's just last season, they were a team that, they were a bottom half team of the table. I'm pretty sure they're nearly getting relegated, and now being, a team contending for Europe is just so key for Liverpool. And another thing about this season is so close. These lower half mid-table teams have been competing this season, have been, competing with these big teams. And sure, teams like United and Tottenham are not performing at the way they are. That's why there's these other teams climbing the ranks. But for me, this table is so competitive right now. Any team can win. City can lose against. They can lose against Aston Villa. Liverpool could lose against Nottingham, which they have. Arsenal can lose against Newcastle. And these teams like Brighton, Fulham, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest. These smaller teams that you don't expect to be on the top are playing really good football right now, and that's what they are. I thought West Ham was going to do way better than expected. They had a really poor beginning of the season with Lopetegui, but now they have Graham Potter as coach, and hopefully he tries to turn things around. They make new signings. They're about to sign Evan Ferguson from Brighton on loan. But this table is so competitive. It's really bad to see. Leicester City under Ruud van Nistelrooy doesn't get the signings that he wanted. They're performing. Wolves surprisingly in the bottom. Everton, West Ham. It's just a lot of this Premier League top, I'd say 15 teams in here are, competitive. They're all such a competitive team. And, Bournemouth is just one of those teams that you should be like, oh, we're versing Bournemouth. Our team needs to play good, because that's how good Bournemouth is right now. I really do rate them, but that's how I feel about Bournemouth. And as for Liverpool, being top of the table at the moment, they are 6 points ahead with a game in hand above Arsenal. And then before that, they're 10 points above Nottingham Forest. Also Manchester City. This should be an easy title win for Liverpool. It should be. Liverpool, I don't think they'll bottle it this season. I think Liverpool will win the Premier League. But there's no way they drop in form. There's absolutely no way. Drop in form as in losing games. Sure, they hadn't. I said earlier they haven't been performing as they were since the beginning, how they were in the beginning of the season. But they're still winning games, and that's what matters. That's what gets you the Premier League trophy at the end of the season. A big key part, which is surprisingly, is not dropping. I guess causing drama in the dressing room is your star players not signing new contracts. There's Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, all rumored to depart the club. Trent with Madrid. Van Dijk not signing new contracts. Same with Salah, rumored to go to Al Hilal in Saudi. And it's just really surprising he's not really dropped the morale. Salah's been tweeting about it. Salah's been talking about it. Van Dijk also. Not really with Trent, but, it's out there. They're talking about not signing new deals. talking about what's going on, and it doesn't seem like it's stopping him. Ernie Slot has really just made this Liverpool team into such an amazing team, especially in the Champions League. They've been performing, out of their mind, top of the group, one loss, 6 wins, and Liverpool just their play style, just top Liverpool. They should win the Premier League, maybe even the Champions League, but Liverpool with a 2-0 win against Bournemouth. Manchester United with a 2-0 defeat to Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. Glazer's side extend their club record 8 matches unbeaten away from home in the Premier League, thanks to Mateta's second half double. What is going on with Manchester United? Manchester United, at the moment, they're just embarrassing to watch. Just complete embarrassing. It's a shame, with a top, team, Manchester United, with these stars in the team, performing way worse than they have even under Ole Gunnar and under Ten Hag. United lose week in, week out, draw week in, week out. And Manchester United, people are going to blame the managers. People are going to blame the players. For me, I blame the players. I blame the higher-ups. I don't think it's a manager, because if it was a manager, it would have been solved by now. United has gone through so many managers over the year with Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar, same with, I forgot his name. I'll just skip past, but they went through so many managers. It's not a manager issue. And for me, I really do like Ruben Almiron. He was linked to Liverpool earlier in the season, before the season actually started, with Jurgen Klopp already saying he's leaving, but then they picked out Ernie Slot. And I was a bit skeptical, because I did like Ruben Almiron. I like what he did with Sporting, and I was like, maybe they'll sign Victor Groykers, because I knew him before I knew him when he was in Brighton. So he performed really good last season for Sporting, and then this season, he's kind of dropping a little bit on form since Ruben Almiron has left Sporting, but he's still a top striker, a really good striker, and I don't think Ruben Almiron is the problem for Manchester United. He did sign a long-term deal with them, but I do believe that he will transform the club. It's just going to take time, and I think one of the things that he has to do is get rid of all that deadwood. Manchester United has so many players in the team that I'm going to go over here right now on their squad, and Onana for me has to go. Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Luke Shaw, go. They all got to go. Diego Dalot, I think he could stay. Matthijs de Ligt, Mazraoui could stay. Lisandro Martinez, I do like him. Malacia should go. Lenny Yoro can develop for United. And Dorgu, their new signing, which I'm going to talk about later on. See how he does. Christian Eriksen, he should leave. Casemiro should leave. Bruno Fernandes, maybe. Most likely stay, because he is their captain. But he's not doing his job for me at the moment. Mason Mount has to go. Ugarte, I do like Ugarte. I feel like he can, he's been under Ruben Almiron at Sporting. Hopefully, Ugarte can be that CDM for Manchester United. Kobe Mainoo, generational talent. So you have to build a team around him, honestly. And you see here the forwards with Zirkzee, he has to go. Amadiallo, Højlund, and Garnacho. I am a big fan of that three, especially Rasmus and Garnacho. I think Garnacho, for me, is United's most important player. I think he could be that big star. He can be that Saka to Arsenal. He can be that Phil Foden to City. He can be that, I guess, Salah to Liverpool. Garnacho, for me, is such an important player that he doesn't get his roses. People complain that he doesn't play as good. Sure, he has bad games, but so has this entire Manchester United team. They all had bad games. They're all playing terribly. They're losing week in, week out. So earlier in the season, blaming Alejandro Garnacho was just, not the way. If you're gonna blame one of them, blame the whole team, because the whole team is terrible. The whole team is terrible. So that was one thing about I didn't like how earlier in the season Manchester United, I guess, fans were doing. But and let's talk about their new signing with Patrick Dorgu from Leeds, and I hopefully that can help Manchester United out. Uh, I can't say much about it because he's a 20-year-old youngster, a wing back, a left back, left wing back, and you will see how he does for Manchester United. He's a good player. He's young, talented. Hopefully, for me, the Manchester United's issues, their wing back, left back situation. So I think that would hopefully help out Manchester United. I'm not a fan of Malacia, Luke Shaw. They're not fitting for me, and I think the Manchester United need to get rid of all this deadwood that they have. With stars like Marcus Rashford, leaving, officially joining Aston Villa. All these players in Manchester United camp looking like they're going to leave and go somewhere else. It's just the whole camp situation is not good. Marcus Rashford joining Aston Villa, for me, I think Marcus Rashford hopefully could fix his career, like in the past with Jesse Lingard joining West Ham, and also like Sancho joining Dortmund. So hopefully Marcus Rashford could gain his career back up in Aston Villa. I did think that he was going to join a team like an AC Milan, a PSG, a Borussia Dortmund. I was really surprised when people say like Barcelona. I just see him as in one of those teams that he can develop more and be a key part. So I don't think like Barcelona, he would really be a key player for Barca. I see him like I really did see him at the PSG, but they did sign Kavicha, and he probably has. And they have Barcola, Dembele, so I didn't really see him there. Dortmund, because Dortmund has been underperforming this season in the Bundesliga, I really did think that Marcus Rashford would join Dortmund. But, now he's staying in England, so we'll see how Marcus Rashford does, because, no one really hates Marcus Rashford. I really do like Marcus Rashford. It's just in the situation that he is in for Manchester United, it's just not good at the moment. And we can go back to the game here with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, they're no Newcastle, they're no Bournemouth, they're no Nottingham Forest. They were underperforming in the beginning of the season, but people were surprised. They signed a few players this summer, and it just hasn't really turned out the way for Crystal Palace. With who's their sign? They had Kamada from Frankfurt, and they're about to sign Ben Chilwell from Chelsea. And, hopefully they can try to get back in form. They haven't lost a game yet in 2025. Actually, they have. They only have one. They've lost one game in 2025. So, hopefully Crystal Palace can try to get back in form like as they were last season. Especially, losing your best player, Michael Olise, and then there's Eze with injuries. It's hard for you to compete. Especially with all these teams performing out of their minds lately, hopefully, in this team there's talent. There's talent in this team. It's just, this team's well organized. You just need to try to get into form, and hopefully towards second half of the season they can try to get in form. They're currently in 12th. They're not down there towards they're not really fighting relegation. They're fine with relegation, but if you want to try to break the top 10. Maybe even try to break a top 9, with Fulham. We'll see how Crystal Palace does, because they do have a surprise. They do have a really good team. But then that was pretty much it for a Manchester United 2-0 loss against Crystal Palace. Wolves with a surprising 2-0 win at home against Aston Villa with goals by Belgrade and a late goal by Matheus Cunha. Villa against Wolves. Here, a surprising win for Wolves, with them being in a relegation battle, and Aston Villa just coming from a win in the Champions League, getting a top 8 and going through the round 16. No one really expected Wolves, underperforming this season. Their best player, Cunha, pretty much, would beat Aston Villa with the team that they have right now. I'm a huge fan with Aston Villa and what they have done. Ollie Watkins, Unai Emery, Ollie Watkins being rumored to Arsenal a few days ago. And Unai Emery here talking about the Ollie Watkins situation, saying that he is happy to say he appreciates a lot how Aston Villa were always supporting him, helping him, and when he arrived here 2 years ago, how we worked with him and always trying to get the best out of him. Now we need him like he needed Aston Villa. For me, I think that's the right choice for for Oli Watkins. Sure, Arsenal are in a title race battle and could try to win silverware, but for Aston Villa, he's such an important player for Aston Villa. Trying, qualifying itself for top 8 in the Champions League is huge, especially with all 4 Premier League teams also making it through to the next rounds. They lose games and they win. For me, Aston Villa should be higher than expected. Last season they got 4th place, Champions League qualification. But I think the likes of Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio joining helps build in depth for the team at Aston Villa, and I think they will perform better. Rodgers is such an important player for Aston Villa. There's also the likes of Leon Bailey on the bench. Young Jacob Ramsey, Oli Watkins, John Duran. Just leaving. 75 million to Al Nassr, and that for me is such a, everyone. For me, obviously, you shouldn't. You're 20. You're doing really good. Sure, you're not a starter for Aston Villa, but you're a super sub and you do amazing when you get onto the pitch. You score. You had such a big first beginning half of the season as a youngster. But I get it. You want to, I guess, provide for your family. You want to. You can provide generations for your family going there for a couple of years, and sure you can come back, but who knows how good you would do. People are like, go chase the bag, but it's you would want to play. You have a once in a lifetime chance to play football as your job, you can say, and you love what you're doing. And sure, you have a one chance in a lifetime also to go to Saudi and make an insane amount of money, but passion, is better than money. So, John Duran, for me, he's really talented. He was linked to Arsenal. He was linked to Chelsea, and I think he should have moved this summer to one of those top teams. I think, or not this summer, this January. He should have left next year. Or if Oli Watkins does leave, did leave Aston Villa next summer, he could take his number 9 spot and see how he performs there for Aston Villa, and see that by judging at the end of this season where they qualify in Europe, Europa League, or maybe they get a Champions League spot. But that whole John Duran thing, I was a huge fan. I was a huge fan of John Duran, but we'll see what happens with there. And then for the Wolves game in general, I didn't really watch it, so I'm trying to go based off what I've seen and heard. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the Wolves surprisingly win against Aston Villa. Now 6 points off Liverpool that are in first place. This statement victory keeps City down in 4th and remains the Gunners of just how dangerous they can be. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. What a day for Arsenal. Just a 5-1 win against your title contender rivals. 5-1 especially is just you wouldn't believe in the Pep era of Manchester City, in this era of Manchester City. You could say that no one expected. I honestly thought City would win. For me, City this season, I was supporting Liverpool. I always was more afraid of Manchester City than Arsenal. Even their recent performance, I feel like out of City, between that of Arsenal and Manchester City, I feel like City would eventually catch up, get back in form, because last season you can see they were one of the best teams in the world. But I think it's just for Pep Guardiola, he just lost fuel in the tank. Pep Guardiola, for me, doesn't know what to do in a situation like this. For me, I've always been a person that would prefer Jurgen Klopp over Pep Guardiola. For me, Pep Guardiola has always been handed to him these amazing teams. Barcelona, he came from the academy. Boom, you had Messi, you had Iniesta, you had Xavi. You go to Bayern, you have Ribery, you have Robin, you have Lewandowski. Boom, you go to City, you have all this money you can spend, and you still have these top players as well. And you have Aguero, and you sign and you spend $1 billion. You spend $1 billion on players, and that has to eventually get you a treble, and that's what he did. I'd prefer Liverpool's 1 title than City's 3, City's 4 in the past couple of years. For me, it's just Pep Guardiola doesn't know what to do in this situation. They fully is he has it's been so long because he's been in City for what 8 years now. He's been in Manchester City for a while now, and it's just that he's finally ran out of fuel in the tank. The way other teams are just catching up to a point is they're just catching up in general, and Pep Guardiola is just still relying on the same situation, same team, same play, whatever that he has been doing for years. Which provided him with all these signings he has always been making. And sure, you don't have your Ballon d'Or winning Rodri, but you still have Phil Foden, you still have Erling Haaland, you still have these amazing players, and you just perform the way you are. It's just that, it's just unacceptable. I don't know. It's just for me, Manchester United, barely making out of the Champions League, especially, for me, Club Brugge played honestly better. But yeah, here in Arsenal, for me, I've always liked Arsenal. For me, one of their main issues for Arsenal is that they have too many players in defense and they can't use them all. In their defense alone, they have Saliba, Gabriel, they have Tomiyasu, they have Ben White, Timber, list goes on and on, Calafiori, but and another thing is that I feel like they need a proper number 9. Havertz scores when it doesn't matter, and that wide open shot that he missed, and then in the I think second half of the game, was pivotal because you never know the outcome of the game, or at the time you don't know. So I feel like Arsenal still need to find that proper number 9. Alexander Isak, for me, he's the best striker in the world right now. Being heavily linked to these top teams in Europe, I think he would suit amazingly for Arsenal. And there's also Victor Gyökeres, who I think would also excel in Arsenal. It's been an issue forever, and I'm not sure why Arsenal has never really solved that issue. It's been 2 years now, and you don't have a proper number 9 using Havertz as a false 9 or Trossard. And for me, they're just super. I think Trossard is really good, but he's more of a super sub than a starter, and he plays a false 9. So I think Arsenal, they played amazing. These youngsters, like Lewis Skelly and Nawarni, and Saka now is playing. It just shows how City just how underperforming they are recently. So Manchester City, people, how to explain this? People say Haaland needs to do more, but you can't really blame on Haaland. People are saying Haaland doesn't perform in big games, but he does his job. Haaland, he joined to score goals. He's not a playmaker. He's no Messi. He's no Mbappe, but he's a proper number 9, and you just gotta find a way to get the ball to him. And there's certain scenarios where Haaland, doesn't do his job well, but Pep has to, Haaland's going to be there for 9 years. He signed a 9-year deal recently. So, you just got to find a way to get back in form. For me, Pep doesn't really know what to do in the circumstances. I've never been really a person that blames the coach heavily. But for me, I think, Pep, got handed a lot, so he needs to figure out how to deal with a bad team. Sir Alex built United, Liverpool built Liverpool, or Jurgen Klopp built Liverpool. So Pep needs to build City. So we'll see how Manchester City does later on. But this was Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. Newcastle with a defeat at home against Fulham with goals by Raul Jimenez and Muniz. For me, Newcastle has been a strange team for me this season. Newcastle has been a team where they win these huge games and then they lose these other games, and today was one of them. Sure, Fulham is not a bad team; they're in the top 10, but the way Newcastle has been playing recently, and just have a game like this is just surprising. It's just that Newcastle are just inconsistent most of the time. Same with these other teams. For me, Barcelona, sort of like Barcelona and Real Madrid, just inconsistent. And doesn't take the fact how good Fulham has been also. Raul Jimenez has been performing really good this season. So, after that huge injury that he had a year or 2 years ago, It's really good to see him bounce back and beat Chicharito's record of most Mexicans scored goals in the Premier League. So it was really good for Newcastle, or not Newcastle, Fulham, to get those big 3 points against a decently performing Newcastle team. But it's the same thing I said earlier. It's just so competitive, this Premier League table, with all these mid-table teams having such a breakout year. With Nottingham, with Brighton, with Newcastle, with Fulham, and yeah, it's just it's such a close battle from what, sixth to ninth. So, either of those teams can win. Bournemouth beat, what was it, Nottingham 5-0, and then Nottingham beat Brighton 7-0. I think Brighton beat, was it Bournemouth earlier in the season. So it was just, it could go any other way. So it's such a close, time. For me, it's one of the greatest Premier League seasons of all time, but that's going to be a whole different video because of just how close these teams are. But yeah, this was Newcastle 1, Fulham 2. No one expected this. Nottingham Forest with a 7-0 win against Brighton just after losing 5-1 against Bournemouth last weekend. Nottingham Forest, they, at some point, people will say they still are, or title contenders. They are 10 points, 10 points behind Liverpool, so it will be kind of hard at the moment, and also they're being, having a game in hand. But Nottingham Forest has been such a good team, such an excellent team this year. They're the only team that has beaten Liverpool this season so far, and it's just Chris Wood has been a key factor. The whole team has been a key factor. This is Nottingham Forest is pretty much a team. Sure, you can say that about the other teams, but it's just a bunch of teams from. A bunch of players from other teams that didn't really perform as well, and then they joined Nottingham. You can see here in the starting 11 with Neco Williams from Liverpool, who didn't really break through, and then there's Gibbs White from Wolves, and Chris Wood, Alanga from United, Anderson from Newcastle. So it's just a bunch of, there's a bunch of, I don't say rejects, but just, mixed around Premier League players from other teams, and they just go into this team and they just mesh well. They play with their heart out. So seeing Nottingham, especially beat a team like Brighton, which for me are heavily favored. For me, I really like Brighton's team, and the signings they made this summer, it just shows how just competitive this league is. Premier League is such a competitive such a competitive time right now, and all these teams have such an amazing young. And, just in general, just talented players. And it's such a close, anything could happen. We can see here in Brighton's team. I'm a huge fan of Brighton's team. Honestly, Welbeck scores, but I'm not a huge fan of Danny Welbeck. And, Matoma was heavily linked to Al Nassr recently for like 90 million or something like that. Joao Pedro, he's been pretty decent. And then you can see, I like Matthew O'Reilly from Celtic. I was huge on him. Evan Ferguson, who's rumored to be leaving. I do like Brighton's team and the signings they make. But, it's just such competitive. So, we'll see how Nottingham Forest does towards the end. Will they get Champions League? Will they get a Champions League spot? For me, it's hard to say. I say if Newcastle get into really good form, I think, and Nottingham somehow drops in form, I think that will be it. I don't think Chelsea also, but Chelsea has been Chelsea. They're at one point title contenders and saying, nah, we're not in a title race. We're just a team just trying to avoid getting relegated and stuff like that. We're just a team trying to bounce back up, and we're not in the title race. And now they're definitely not in the title race, So, we'll see what happens with Chelsea as well, and these other teams fighting for this fourth place. It looks like no one wants it, for Manchester United losing. With Chelsea been tying and losing games recently, with Newcastle losing, so it seems like no one wants that fourth place spot. But we'll see if Nottingham Forest will make it to Champions League and how far Brighton goes towards the end of the season. But yeah, that was Nottingham 7 and Brighton 0. The season has been so competitive so far, and it's just amazing to see how these small teams are making this way up into the table, and these big teams are somehow dropping points. It is such a crazy time in the Premier League right now, and I'm really excited to see what the future has later on these coming weeks and towards the end of the season, and see who will lift the trophy. Personally, for me, I think Liverpool, but anything can happen. Never know. Liverpool could drop points. Arsenal can get up top. Who will get that fourth Champions League spot? Who will get relegated? who will get European glory. We'll see what happens, especially in the Champions League with these Premier League teams. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and this was the Premier League recap.